Welcome back to Fold in the Cheese. It's your boy K-Troll on the mic today, and we are recapping championship weekend. We had a couple of epic games, one that was close, one that was not. But alas, I am joined today, very special guest in his Wake Forest pullover. I'm joined today by the Trent Strickland to my Chris Paul.
Seven. Visser trying to drop it down low. Tough catch by Williams. Eric in traffic. Followed by Strickland. Whoa.
Ethan Gelfand, what is happening?
Just call me T-Bug. I prefer T-Bug. That's
T-Bug jumping out of the building.
Yes.
Dunking all over everybody. We didn't have a pairing today, and since I'd been interacting with our friend Trent on Facebook this morning, I thought you're wearing your Wake Forest pullover. Trent Strickland, for those of you that don't know, you all know Chris Paul, I'm sure, because he's an NBA superstar, Hall of Famer, one of the best point guards of all time. Trent Strickland played on the same team as him at Wake Forest, and Trent was a small forward and
athlete, man. He could, as you said,
jumping out of the building.
Still, one of the most iconic pictures from our time there was we were playing Indiana in the Big Ten ACC Challenge at home. We had busted out those new gold uniforms. I think it was, I want to say maybe your freshman year, actually. And Chris lobbed it up to him for an alley-oop, and he's literally like hanging on it sideways. Like he's literally horizontal to the ground after the dunk. I'm sure we'll throw in the YouTube clip because it's still there.
Insane. Yeah. This dude, we had different people that were known for different things. We had a couple of three-point assassins. We had a wild card. We had rebound machine. We had everything. Vetus wild card, by the way.
Oh, I thought you were calling Trent the wild card because he was a wild card too.
No, Trent couldn't shoot for the first couple of years, but then he got better at shooting and it became like a pretty good all-around player. But Trent could jump out of the building, and so if you wanted someone to throw down like a thunderous dunk, that was your guy.
Yeah,
I mean he had hops for days. So
then you just had the glue guy of Jamal Levy.
Jamal Levy was like a Rodman. He was like a rebound machine /
defender,
everything. Yeah, he was incredible.
Man,
those were the days, man.
How did we not win?
How did we not win at all? I think that's you know what's nice about that though is when we didn't win at all with those two teams, which are arguably the most talented and best teams Wake Forest has ever had.
Save for the Tim Duncan and Randolph Childress years, because those were beastly too.
Yeah, but that's really just like two guys, you know?
They got to the Elite Eight. We didn't get to the Elite Eight.
I know, because Tim Duncan was that good. But I'm saying like this team, I would argue had like
more depth, more all-around goodness. Yes,
top to bottom, better team, right? You may not have had Duncan. You know, we had Chris Paul as a guard versus a center or forward. But either way, like for us to not win, then you're kind of thinking like that kind of set the tone for the rest of my life. So I don't have to worry as much anymore. When they get in the tournament, I have no expectations.
True.
This team they do not win championships.
Yeah.
And so as good as they could be at any given time, and they've been number one in the country, they've had the number one recruiting class, they've had the number one recruit, they've had everything. Don't have to worry about it anymore because I just know come tournament time, it ain't gonna happen.
We've curbed our expectations. Yes, after that all-star stack team did not win either one of the years, but granted, the first year Chris was a freshman, so that was a lot to ask. Second year, we should have. It was literally laid out for us, and we blew it. But
yes,
what was what was I just about to say about that team?
You have a lot of stories. For those of you that don't know, Ethan has a lot of stories from that team. He was on the bus every single game. He was in the locker room every single game. He's a manager for the team. He knows all these players, the coaches.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you just look, what was so crazy about that team is just the depth. I mean, when you have a Teron Downey, who was a starting point guard his entire career until Chris got there, he came off the bench. And, this is what I was going to say. But Chris was a generational talent, still is, still doing great in the NBA. I know he's getting old and losing a step, but still great. And I think you and I have talked about this multiple times. What annoyed me in college is that he could have taken over a game anytime he wanted. He could have dropped 30 to 40 every game, but he didn't. He was a very selfless player. He wanted to get other people involved, and he was great. You know, he one of the top assist guys in the country, all that stuff. And so, you know, I think he averaged in his career at Wake maybe 16, 17 points, probably like 8, 9 assists, 3 steals, whatever. But then, you know, you see him rookie year in the NBA, he's averaging 18, second year in the NBA, he's up to 20. I'm like, damn it, man. Like, there have been so many times you could have just taken over whenever you wanted, and he didn't. And again, it speaks to his selfless nature. It's the team and all that. But I just wish he had more of those games, because don't don't get it twisted. There were games in college where he said,
Yeah.
you know what, just give me the ball. I'm going to win this for us. I think there was a Duke game a couple times where he did that at home, and multiple other ones. But whenever he wanted, he could have done it. And I don't know why he didn't.
You saw him as a fan in the stands, I would tell you, and you were in the huddles and hear what they're talking, like what they're scheming up and all of that. So you probably know what he's saying versus what coaches are saying or whatever. As a fan, we would watch him, and there would absolutely be those moments when you could tell he was pissed. He's like, all right, fine. And he would take the inbound and he would go faster than every person on the court, slicing through every single player and just lay it up for what looked like the easiest full court layup you've ever seen. And you're like, yeah, let's do that every time.
Let's do that every time.
And he was never frustrated. It was never like inconsistent where he was like frustrated. Like, where's that great play again? Because he was always great.
Mm-hmm.
He just never, to your point, he didn't always just like take over like we all knew he could. I mean, he's very clearly the best player on the court in every court he played on. And you're just like, and you see it in flashes, maybe a couple times a game or every other game or whatever. You just see him absolutely dominate everybody. And then of course you see in the NBA, like he has that little pull-up jumper floater thing was like teardrop thing. It's like the most unstoppable shot in the NBA for years. Yeah. And you're just like, this guy's like 5'10", maybe. and he's out there just dropping over the top of every single center in the league. Everyone who's stepping up to help. He's burning past every guard. You give him a pick and he's gone. Like he was unstoppable with that. And then the alley-oops, of course. Like
I was gonna say, his vision too was just spectacular. And he was a thief, all that kind of stuff. So as I said, generational talent. We were lucky to have him for 2 years. Wish we could have had him for more. We could have used him at least one more, at least my senior year. That would have been great. But no. But he's like, I'm gonna go make me some money. But hey,
I think I remember everyone saying that, and I don't know if this is true. You can probably confirm or deny. I remember it was like the end of my sophomore year because I'm the same class as him. End of my sophomore year, I remember people saying like, "Oh yeah, I saw him rolling around campus in like a Mercedes that had his initials etched in the headrest or something." And I was like, "Yeah, he's gone. He's gone."
That I don't know. But when I knew he was gone is, so after the season's over, after you lose in the tournament or whatever, you get a couple weeks off, and then really you come right back in for off-season workouts. So I was in the gym and I was there early for whoever's workout I was working, and Chris was in there, but it wasn't his workout day, or it wasn't his workout time. And he was working with one of the coaches, and he was just pulling NBA threes. And so I was like, okay, okay, there it is. So
there we go.
My first telltale sign, like, yeah, he ain't coming back.
Yeah, because he was not like, that wasn't his game necessarily. He could shoot. He was a really good shooter.
But yeah, he was mid-range. He could shoot the three. He was a high percentage, but he didn't take that many.
He didn't take that many. Yeah, he could absolutely shoot it. You were never worried when he shot one up, but that wasn't his game necessarily.
Especially when you have a Justin Gray, you have those guys who Teron Downey, those, like those are their
Vitas
games.
Every third game. Vitas Danilus every third game would be like on fire.
Love the guy. Still follow him on Facebook. He wishes me a happy birthday every year, which is great.
He's jarring jelly or something, right?
Jellies or honey, something that he's made. Love him to death. And what's so crazy is like he was so good his freshman, sophomore years, like legit X factor. And then, man, he just took a dive. And then he just said, you're right. He became a wild card because you could get a Venus game where he had 28 points, 10 rebounds, he hit like 4 threes. But then you get a Venus game where he shot 1 for 9, 4 points, 2 rebounds.
Was there anything going on with his psyche? I have to know. Like, was there anything in the locker room where you're just like he's got in his own head? Like he used to be a star, and the other guys came, and now he's like freaked out.
Mentally, not the strongest. He was very swayed by emotion and streaks and stuff like that. He also did put on a little weight, I want to say, in between his sophomore and junior year. That made it a little bit, but it wasn't too much.
They probably want him to be, because he's a tall guy. They probably want him to be down in the post more and be a better post defender.
He's from Lithuania, so he was a classic, European player that a big guy who likes to play on the outside. Yeah. You don't want to go bang down low.
Yeah.
You don't want to go with Eric Williams down there and the Sheldon Williams.
But he's 6'10", like you need him down there at some point, or 6'9" or whatever. Like you need him down there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway. Y'all, I don't know if anyone listening to this gives any care at all about.
Oh, they do.
These were fascinating basketball times. This was the era, by the way, of JJ Redick of Sean May and
Chris
Rashad
Duhan,
McCants, and all
Raymond Felton.
Raymond Felton. There were some really good basketball teams at this time. Illinois,
the ACC alone. I mean, the ACC was a truly dominant conference at that time. It wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Julius Hodge, Tim Pickett, fastest player alive.
Screw Julius Hodge.
Julius Hodge. That's right.
What a dirt
a lot of hatred for a lot of players, but there were some great players that came to the ACC at that time, and they're still playing in the league and took over the league. So, alas, here we are talking basketball on an NFL championship weekend recap episode. Let's get to the games, shall we? Let's get to the games. Eagles, 49ers. It's the outcome I expected, but not the way I expected.
I was going to say, not nearly the way you expected. So once Purdy goes down, you're going to their fourth string, you're done. Like, I'm sorry. You struck lightning in a bottle with Purdy for 8 weeks. You ain't doing it twice. I mean, Josh Johnson, to his credit, this dude's been bounced around the league. There was 4 years he wasn't in the league. He's been back. I mean, your perennial backup. You're thrust into an unwinnable situation. And, you know, he was not good as expected. And then, of course, he gets concussed.
He gets knocked out. I watched that play. I was like, I saw him get up kind of woozy, and I was watching my father-in-law, and he's like, oh, they got to get Purdy back in here or something. And I was like, I think he just got knocked out.
I think he's going to have to come back.
I think because they're talking about Christian McCaffrey, and he's like, well, they don't need McCaffrey. They got this guy here. And I'm like, no, I think they're talking about him because he looked woozy coming up, and I think they just got called in from the sideline, from the booth, that they're like, you need to check him out. And I was like, he's not coming back. And Ndamukong Suh just pancaked him. It was nasty.
Yeah. And so the fact that Purdy comes back in with what we now known as a torn UCL, which, I mean, for those not familiar with the elbow ligaments and all that, when you hear baseball, that's Tommy John surgery. And that's where you're out for essentially almost a year and a half. So for him to come back, I mean, they had no other option. They had to put him back in there. He was okay to come back in, but specifically like, no, you have to.
Yeah. So torn UCL. I had not heard that yet. I hadn't followed up on it to find out, but he could only throw a screen pass. He could only throw it about 5 or 6 yards.
And so, I mean, obviously the Eagles were dominant in the win, and even when I know Purdy was only out in the second series, so it's disappointing because to your credit, the Eagles were the better team overall. I think I was just getting a little high hopes with the Niners, hoping they could do it, but I would have liked to see a healthy game. The Eagles are like, we don't care. We won. We crushed them. That's all that matters. They're going to the Super Bowl. From a fan's perspective, I would have liked to have seen what a healthy Brock Purdy, ironically enough, how that would have fared.
I agree.
And the end result probably would have been the same. But
I think that they would have scored more, no doubt. They would have scored more than 7 points. But I just think that when they played really good defenses, when the 49ers got in this weird streak where they were putting up like 30-plus points every game, and you're like, dang, this is not – the Niners are usually like a grinded out, 18-12 kind of winning team. They were just cruising until that Cowboys game. And the Cowboys game, when they win like 18-12 or whatever it was, they won that game with a lower score. It made me realize, like, okay, if they play another really good defense, it's going to have to be low scoring for them to win, because that offense – as good as those skill players are, I think we saw what Purdy can do, like what his limits are. And he was a great game manager in that Cowboys game, but he wasn't carving them up. He didn't throw a single touchdown. He wasn't good enough to beat an elite defense. And I thought the Eagles had an elite defense. And so here we are in a second elite defense. Because the Eagles scored 31, I think there's no chance.
Oh, no.
No matter what Purdy had done, there's no chance San Francisco was putting up 31 on that defense.
Right.
That defense came with their ears pinned back, and they were fired up. And they're rounding into form at just the right time. So I don't think he would have put up 31. Now, I think they would have put up 17, maybe. It might have been like 31-17. It would have been a respectable loss. Maybe the Eagles pull away at the end or something. But the Eagles came out and just flat stomped them. I mean, both lines of scrimmage, they were in charge.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, talking about defenses, the 49ers defense was top 2 in the entire league the entire year. And so for the Eagles to come in and do that, you talk about giving up 31 points. When was the last time the 49ers have given up 31 points? So, I mean, that's just another testament to the Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts and running that offense and all the weapons they have. So that kind of silenced some critics there. Because again, everyone's touting the 49ers defense. Like that's their backbone. That's what's carried them throughout the season, which it truly has. Yep. And for the Eagles to come in and do that, I don't think that's getting talked about enough. Obviously, everyone's talking about the injuries. George Kittle says, of course, I'm disappointed. I don't know, I'll use better language, but basically saying like it sucks when you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
But as you just mentioned, I don't know if that would have necessarily made the difference. Now, granted, the Eagles were given some more short field scenarios because of their defense and forcing turnovers and stuff like that. But again, they're still putting up those points. And I mean, Miles Sanders, they all stepped up. So it was.
They did not have a problem moving the ball against San Francisco, which was the biggest surprise of all. I thought this would be a lower scoring game unless, like this Eagles team, this was a big test for them too, because everyone's been talking about their soft schedule and they shouldn't be they're a week 1 seed or whatever. Like they've made it in, they haven't beat anybody good, whatever. So you're curious to find out if the offense is as good as it has performed all season. Is it that good? Can it, against same question, against an elite defense? They ran all over them. They ran all over them. They'd have like 8-minute drives. I remember one drive right before halftime, and I'm sitting there thinking like they had the ball. It was like 7 or 8 minutes. And they're just moving the chains. And of course, San Francisco's committing penalties too, so they're shooting themselves in the arm, in the foot. But they're sitting here just, I don't know, shoot wherever. Shoot yourself wherever.
No, you're right. It's foot.
Shot my arm again. Damn it. Whatever. I shot my arm again. I can only do that once because then I can't use my
other arms hurt.
But they're moving the ball, and they just kept moving the chains. You're just like, they're just grinding it out, man. They're imposing their will, and that takes a toll on the defense, psychologically and physically. You're just getting beat up at the line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah,
and those running backs. They now all of a sudden have like a 2-headed monster between Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell's carving people too, and you're kind of like, dang.
Boston Scott's about to get a goal line touchdown. So
goal line. Then you've always got to worry about Jalen, who is still injured. You could tell he's injured. He took one hit. He was running to the left as a design run, and then he got kind of crunched, and you're like, ooh, and you could tell it hurt. Well, they ran him design run like 3 more plays in a row, and I was just thinking he does not want to be running right now. He just got crunched. But I think it's the same drive he ran touchdown. He ended up punching the touchdown in. But I just think the Eagles' offense looked legit. They looked.
It definitely silenced any critics they had about the offense, and the overall team. That was literally a complete package they showed. And, you talked about the long drives when you go in 8-9 minutes. Those are just backbreakers for the opposing defense. And then when you have an offense that's not able to move, you talked about the one at the end of the half. So then they scored. 49ers get the ball back. Second play, fumble. So then the Eagles get the ball right back. The 49ers defense back on the field. Granted, it was 20 yards they had to go to get another touchdown. But, it was all Eagles from the get-go. Healthy Purdy or not, they earned their shot to the Super Bowl, no question.
What's funny is I said to my father-in-law, he's like, they really need to get Purdy back in there. I wonder if he's going to come back. They have no shot if he didn't come back. And I was like, this guy Josh Johnson, he's a competent backup. He's been in the league a long time. He's not going to be as good, but he's going to be able to move the ball, and they'll be able to run their offense. It's a very quarterback-friendly offense. And as soon as I said that, he fumbles a snap, and he's like, good timing on that.
Well, I'm
good timing on that call there. And I was like, yep. Well, except for that. Here's the last point I make about the Niners. And as soon as the game ended, I was just like, man, I know the media is just going to jump straight to like, what if Brock Purdy hadn't got injured and they were 7-7, and like whatever. Like I hate that for the Eagles, but I think it's gonna continue to be a chip on their shoulder. They're gonna be like, are you serious? Now you're still giving an asterisk because he got hurt. It's like, what would have happened? Amazing Brock Purdy would have kept them. It's like, we crushed them, Yeah. So I hate that for the Eagles, but I do think it's going to give them motivation in the Super Bowl.
Honestly, I don't know if that's. I feel like that's not as much of the chatter just because of what they did to the Niners defense. And I know that on the flip side, they'll say, well, it's because the Niners defense was tired. They were out there the whole time because of all the turnover. They couldn't move the offense. But I see some of that chatter. I don't think it's going to be as much just because of what the offense was able to do and just how well-rounded they looked. They earned their spot regardless.
Yeah. One guy, I'll tell you this, when I was at the bus stop yesterday with the bus stop moms, another bus stop dad was out there.
Hey.
And he was a former semi-pro hockey player. And so it was interesting. He's Canadian. He's like, I don't know much about football, but I did watch the games, and he's an athlete. And he's like talking about one thing he said I thought was very poignant, which was the 49ers lost their composure. When Purdy went out, they lost their composure. And he didn't say it like he knew it. He was just like, that was my perception. And I was like, man, that's actually, I think, exactly what happened. You know, the quarterback goes out, they're scrambling, they're trying to figure out, and all of a sudden the rest of the team just fell completely flat.
Yeah.
Defense started missing plays, penalties, all that kind of stuff. You're just like, they just, in their head, they're just like, shit, we can't win without a quarterback, you know?
You were about to say Brock Purdy, like a quarterback. Well, we got Trent Williams just throwing people to the ground. That's that as well.
That was funny.
Yikes. So yes, Eagles have earned their berth to said Super Bowl.
They're in. Bengals Chiefs game. That was a different story. I mean, that was exactly the game we thought it would be, coming down to the wire.
Yeah.
And man, we both said it, so I'm not trying to take credit or anything, but like, I was nervous about this, man. I was nervous. Mahomes he's found a way to win. They don't want to hear this whole Burrow head thing. You knew that was going to be a motivator. It was stupid to bring that up.
Dumb.
And you just knew, like, they're going to come out with everything they've got. And if the Bengals can weather that, then they are worthy. And if they can't, no fault of their own, but this team has their back against the wall at a home AFC Championship, 5th straight home AFC Championship. You're going to try and tell them they can't win.
Yeah.
Man, I'm done doubting. I'm done doubting this team for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but also, and again, I'll just say on the other side, the fact that the Bengals did weather it, because it was, granted, it wasn't like a huge knockout punch in the beginning. It wasn't just straight knocks them out, but they went behind 10. It was 13-3. They would chip back, got a field goal here, got a field. The fact that the Bengals actually had a chance to win this game. It's tied 20-20, and 2 minutes, Bengals get the ball, and they're, deep in their own territory, but you just had that. At least I did. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to do this again.
This is the drive. This is Montana on the drive. This is the one.
Field and kick a field goal at the buzzer or whatever it's going to be, but this is it. And this is where he gets his legacy gets cemented. This is where he gets a bust in Cincinnati already, out of bronze, out of gold, out of diamonds, whatever it may be. And it looked like it was going to be that. They got to the 45 or something, and then they stalled out. And then so you think, all right, Kansas City still has 2 timeouts. They had 45 seconds, I want to say. And at that point, they put my up, game over. Like, they're going to get this. There's no question.
Yeah. They did it with like 13 seconds against the Bills last year.
Yeah. I was just like, that's too much time. That's too much time to give 2 timeouts to Patrick Mahomes. All you need is a field goal. And that's it.
Yep.
So, it would have been so storybook. And again, it's not like I really had a dog in this fight. I was hoping for a good game. I got nothing against either of these teams. They're both fun to watch. But man, there was just something about that final Bengal drive. I was like, this is going to be storybook amazing. A great story.
Yep.
And didn't pan out. But again, great story on the other side. The fact that once again, Mahomes brings it down in no time and gets it at the buzzer. So
with his legs, of course, running the ball for a first down. And then a crap penalty that was a penalty, and it sucks. And the guy, I feel so bad for this dude who played his butt off all game and cost him the game. And you see there's video in the locker room of, going to the locker room, and veteran players are yelling about it. And I'm just like, y'all should know well enough that it doesn't ever come down to one play like that.
But that wasn't, and that's the thing. Mahomes got the first down. They were on the 38. There was still time on the clock. Like,
yeah,
that wasn't it. They were already within basically field goal range. Like, while that basically sealed it, that's not like it was the reason they lost. And again, you never say you lose a game because of one play.
Yeah.
But to say like it's all because of that, that's why they were able to get. No, they were already in range with a first down.
Yeah, with a first down. Yeah, I agree. It was inevitable, honestly, but feel bad for that kid because he's a second-year player played a great game. The Kansas City defense, I think you got to give a lot of credit to them, man. That defensive line is nasty.
Oh my gosh.
The secondary was banged up. They showed I saw, man, I wish I'd saved it. There was a tweet about the list of the Kansas City rookies and how they performed in this game. And it was awesome. It was like Isaiah Pacheco, 85 total yards from scrimmage, like led the running backs from scrimmage. Sky Moore had that clutch punt return. At the end. Man. He returned it all the way to like the 50, on that after that Bengals drive. And he had a couple of catches too whenever all the Chiefs receivers are getting injured. Juju goes down. Kadarius Toney goes down. He had no one to throw to. So Sky Moore steps in and plays pretty well. Then they had these corners who did a tip drill interception. There were a couple pass blocks, pass broken up. George Karlaftis is a rookie on the defensive line. He had a sack. Like that, all these rookies. And it was just like, dang, these guys all balled out. They really did, which is awesome to see for a Chiefs team that's already loaded to get guys like that.
To have the defense stepping up like that. But I think what you were talking about with the defensive line, they were getting pressure on Burrow all night. I mean, I don't remember how many sacks they had total, but you could see they were just getting in that backfield, and he didn't have as much time. I know he already has one of the quicker releases in the game, but rightfully so because of his offensive line. Yeah. But the fact that the Chiefs are Chris Jones, holy crap.
Chris Jones is a man.
There's a reason why he's getting paid. But I think that was the biggest X factor was the pressure they were able to get on Burrow. Obviously had a couple of interceptions, which is a little uncharacteristic for him at this point in the season, but still. So, as you said, their defense stepped up, and for everyone saying that the defense is the Achilles heel of this Chiefs team, it didn't seem like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we mentioned that though, because the Jaguars game, same thing. Like this team, these defensive players have played in the postseason. They know what it takes to win in the postseason. Yeah. They tend to step up in the postseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lower scoring game. It didn't surprise me that it was 23-20 at all because they find a way to get this done. I'm kicking myself over not taking the over on the punts on the Gelfand gaggle because that's the one where I thought I was contradicting myself. I was like, I even said it was wishful thinking there would be a shootout. But I'm sitting here talking about how both of these defenses they know how to play better in the playoffs, and then
playoffs.
Here they are punting 8 times when it's 5.5 over under.
Right.
Whatever.
Oops.
Whoops. So yeah, Super Bowl is going to be awesome, man. And we're not going to preview all that right now, but I'm stoked about it. I'm always stoked about it. It doesn't matter who's playing
the Super Bowl, man.
Usually it's the Super Bowl, but these two teams are exciting. This is the youngest pairing of quarterbacks in Super Bowl history. The first time 2 African-American quarterbacks are playing each other in Super Bowl history. I think both of those are really cool. These teams are exciting. These players are exciting. They've got some real superstars on the team. I want to see what the Eagles can do, man. I want to see what they can do.
True.
See if they are legit, if they're going to be here to stay. We'll see.
Yeah, both these teams too, man. I know they got a couple old hats on the Chiefs. Although, how old is Juju? I feel like he's old, but he's not. He's probably like 27.
Well, he was a guy who was like 19 or 20 when he entered the league. He was one of those guys that they kept saying like Velus Jones, for the Bears is like a 25-year-old rookie, and they're talking about how like Darnell Mooney's a third-year player and he's younger than Velus Jones. All this kind of stuff. Like Juju was that guy for a while. They kept getting new rookies, and he was still the youngest guy.
Yeah,
so he was very young coming. I think he turned 21 in the NFL. So I think he was like super young coming in. Okay. So he's still probably he's probably 26 or 27.
Yeah, he's probably like that. Yikes. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Can't wait to preview that one. All right, so I know you're gonna want to be talking about this. Let's talk about the NFL Playoff Challenge update, shall we?
NFL Playoff Challenge. Yeah, I've heard of that.
You're doing all right. So I went all in. I went all in on the Niners. So that was great. Brock Purdy got me -1 point, so that was fun.
Yikes!
Yeah. So I'm basically done, which is fine. I went for it. I put all my eggs in the basket. Hey, if the Niners were here, I'd be looking like the smartest guy in the room. But happens. But
yep, I hear you.
You're looking good. I know you're gonna have to replace a couple guys, but the fact that you got Mahomes gonna be getting you quadruple points, that's big time. And luckily you still have Devontae Smith in there, and obviously Travis Kelce. But I feel like everyone at this point is Travis Kelce, except for a couple who went with George Kittle, which then they're screwed.
They're screwed.
Kelce, first of all, has just been a beast anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you still got Jerick McKinnon. So you have 3 guys still in there, 4 guys, which are going to get you.
3 are getting me 4x. Devontae's getting me double.
Which, to be in the Super Bowl with that many people, that's cash money right there. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, Mahomes is the only real difference maker here. And that's what I'm really banking on him carrying it for me because no one else has a 4x quarterback.
True.
And I think the next best is one guy actually took Mahomes after the first round.
After the first. They had Josh Allen first.
He had Josh Allen, who won his first round game, and rather than get double Josh Allen points, he switched to Mahomes, which turns out to be a smart play.
But he still had Niners and Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. So
so he's probably not going to get there. But I need McKinnon to do something, man.
I
need McKinnon. He has been really quiet. I'm getting 2 to 4 points from him each week, and it turns into 6 or 12 with the multipliers, but not much.
Not much.
So I need him to do something more than that. And then I need Mahomes to have a Mahomes kind of game. Or at least be like, if he's equal to Jalen Hurts, that's fine with me because then I get 4 times whatever that is. And that's a big bump, you know?
That is a big bump.
But I've got some ideas of what I want to do with my lineup moving forward. Some pretty obvious choices and maybe 1 or 2 surprises. We'll see.
Ooh, I like a surprise. Very fun. Very nice.
Yep. Okay. Our boy Drader pivoted to the Eagles whenever the I think he had, I forget who else he had. Oh, I think he said Bengals. He had some Bengals in there, and so he switched his Bengals players to Eagles.
Well, no, he didn't switch any.
No, he switched Bills. I guess Bills players.
Yeah, he had Stephon Diggs. He made that Devontae Smith, and he always had Miles Sanders, so that's been paying out for him big time.
That's true.
So that actually was just Devontae. That was the switch.
Okay, so he did Devontae like I did. Miles Sanders has been doing pretty well for him, so he's got to change out his kicker and his defense just like I did.
Change out his quarterback and his running back.
But he's got to change out Mixon and Burrow. So he's gonna struggle there, but he's getting 4x on Miles Sanders, which is good. So that's kind of an X factor for him.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Sanders versus McKinnon and Mahomes. I like my chances, but you never know.
You never know.
And I'm only a couple points behind him, I think. 13.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
Well, yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's close. But I think you should be all right.
We'll see. We will see.
I am not all right.
You're not all right.
I am not all right.
You're done. You're done, though.
That's
thinking. The Gelfand gaggle. Speaking of not all right, the Gelfand gaggle did us dirty, man.
It did. I thought it was going to be a little more lighter choices. So I was like, oh, yeah. Still pretty rough.
We are not smart people. I think we've said that many times.
Or we just try and outsmart each other with our picks. Like, oh, here we go. Let's just get all clever on all this. And then it's just too difficult. It's 2 difficult choices.
So let's recap here.
Yes.
Who will have more completions, Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts? This sucks for you. Jalen Hurts didn't have a lot, but that sucks for you. But definitely Jalen Hurts.
Definitely Jalen Hurts.
First reception for the Eagles. I called this one. I said it'd be AJ Brown. He'd been chirping. He was not happy about not getting the ball more. You took the field. It was AJ, Devontae, or the field. I think you thought it would be Dallas Goedert. Not a bad call, but it was AJ Brown.
It was AJ. So
I started out 2-2 there, 2 for 2 there. The Eagle with the most rushing touchdowns. This was kind of wild because Miles Sanders just went off, had 2 touchdowns himself.
Yep.
Jalen did get a touchdown, but
and so did Boston Scott.
Not as many as Miles Sanders, though. So Sanders was the right call. We took Jalen. Over under Kittle targets. You were right on this one, under 5.5. Again, when Purdy came in the second time after he'd been injured, he threw the ball twice, and they were both behind the line of scrimmage screen passes.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran like 10 straight plays that were runs. I mean, he could not throw the ball. I don't know if that changed or not. Kittle had 4 targets. Obviously you'd think, hey, if Brock Purdy's in there longer, they would have been able to throw the ball more.
Josh Johnson hit Kittle for like a 20-yard gain.
There you go. But same is true of like Purdy completions. So I feel like that's your penance for getting that one right. All right. Longest run for the 49ers. We both took CMC. It was CMC by a lot. He had like a 27-yarder or something. Ripped one off. The duo with more total yards, Debo and Ayuk, or AJ and Devontae. Again, AJ and Devontae did me right.
I went all in on the 49ers on every.
Debo had -9 rushing yards. He had like 24 total yards. He had 33 receiving yards and -9 rushing yards. And now you had like 1 catch for 10 yards or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's pretty easy.
I was done.
Not that Devontae and AJ blew it out. I mean, they didn't have to pass the ball that much, honestly. Jalen didn't have to do much.
Carving it on the ground.
They just carved him up.
Oh.
More rushing yards in the Chiefs-Bengals. Burrow or Mahomes. I foolishly took Mahomes on a bum ankle, who kind of tried to make it close there at the end. But Burrow did have the most rushing
like
yards on his team.
30 or something.
He had like 30. He was like led his team in rushing.
Yeah.
Which is sad for Joe Mixon, who, to your point, sucks. First catch for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, Juju, or the field. You were heavy on Travis Kelce. I took the field and thought too many other mouths to feed. It was the field. It was Isaiah Pacheco, actually.
Isaiah Pacheco.
Speaking of Pacheco, total yards. Pacheco or McKinnon. We both went Pacheco. It was Pacheco. Greater number. This was really close, actually.
This was a fun one. I liked this one.
Joe Burrow attempts or Hayden Hurst receiving yards. And the total came down to 41-37. This was a close one. But we both took Hayden Hurst, and it was Joe Burrow attempts. 41 attempts. Hayden Hurst there at the end caught a couple of long passes. And I was like, oh, let's go, Hayden Hurst. Will Joe Burrow score a touchdown? I feel like this is a layup. We both said no. Not going to happen. And then over-under 5.5 total punts. I already mentioned this one. I'm salty about it. We both took under. Wishful thinking. It was over. So I did crush you, though. 7-5 this week. 7 out of 12 for me this week. 5 out of 12 for you. That brings our totals to 14 out of 36 for you, 39, and 17 out of 36 for me, 47%. So we were both terrible. We were both below 500.
We are murderating this whole
not where you want to be.
You got some prop bets? Call us for advice.
That's right. We are not your guys. So glad I didn't put any money down this weekend. Whatever.
Yeah, that happens. But yeah, this is gonna be good. It's back in. Wait, it's Arizona. That's right.
It is in Arizona, so it will be temperature controlled.
It will be, and both teams have to go across the country. So you're a thing that you don't have to worry about that.
Listen, you know what's funny about that?
Have to go.
My father-in-law, an old man, during the game. You know it is tough for these West Coast teams.
They look tired.
To go across country and play in the cold. He did say that.
They look tired.
They look tired from that flight. Sleep. It was the flight and the cold weather. Listen, home field advantage is a thing, so that does matter, and especially in January.
Well, going back to Wake Forest basketball, we played at the University of New Mexico, and that was actually a beastly New Mexico team. Remember Danny Granger?
Oh yeah,
he was on that team, and they were good, and it was very much a trap game for us. So we played at their place. It's called the Pit, and it's literally one of the steepest arenas in there. It's just like literally straight down. You're playing at the bottom of this pit, but about the home court advantage, where you're playing in Albuquerque, it's a mile above sea level. And there are literally signs plastered everywhere in your visiting locker room, on the tunnel, coming onto the court. Just so you know, we're a mile above sea level. You're going to feel lightheaded. If you exert too much energy, you might. I'm like, shit, man. Like this. And
they're just trying to psych him out. Yeah.
Did not psych me out. I think I've told the story before, but it was during our shoot around. Skip wanted me to make sure no one was watching our practice. He made me go up to the damn concourse. I almost died just because of oxygen loss.
Never climbed that many stairs before, and the oxygen loss, of course.
Oh, the stairs are fine, but honestly, I got halfway up. I'm like, oh my god, I can't breathe. This is bad. It was a thing. Though.
It was a real thing. It was definitely
real.
Not because you had eaten 3 personal pan pizzas from Pizza Hut and an order of breadsticks.
That was after.
That was after.
I had to recover. I needed my recovery fuel.
What were those pizzas that used to sell in the basketball arenas? They were some like,
oh god,
they were crap. They were started with an F. It was some Italian word that
paisanos or something.
Made it sound like they were good, and that was like fusillis or something. That's like a type of pasta, but something like that.
Fusilli like, Jerry.
I was like, no, these are bad.
These are bad. Yeah.
Anyway. So that does it for the championship week recap.
So we got a week off now from football action. I guess the Pro Bowl games,
flag football for the Pro Bowl,
and they're also aren't they doing like games, like doing like contests and competitions?
They've done some skill challenges already.
What already?
Yeah, I saw Graham Gano won some tic-tac-toe. anything. I don't know. I think they're like already out there. I don't know.
Damn it. Well, that sucks. That would have been fun. Tic-tac-toe. So yeah, we're gonna have a couple weeks.
I think they called it. Very
Nice.
clever.
Very clever. So yeah, we're gonna have a couple weeks to prepare for said Super Bowl, but don't worry, we will. So until next time, keep on holding.
Fold it.